Hello, teachers. Thank you for taking part in this professional development. Your commitment to the success of your students is evident by your presence here today. This professional development is intended to be used for 6th grade students, but the general concept can be applied to books at nearly any level. The activities included are all centered around an essential question, and there are additional guiding questions to help students contemplate the theme. In order to make this presentation interactive and collaborative, please ready your cell phones, laptops, or tablets to use Flipgrid. We'll be utilizing this platform in responding to discussion questions and in sharing our thoughts and ideas with others. The essential question for this book collection is, how do other people help us through adversity? At times, especially when we're young, we do not consider how others help us through our problems. Recognizing that there are others out there who are looking out for us and are trying to help us not only helps us feel calm in times of stress, but can also foster a sense of gratitude, empathy, and perhaps ultimately a willingness to pass it on and help others as we were helped. Who helps you when you are facing adversity? Consider this scenario. If your car broke down on the side of the road and you could only call one person to come and help you, who would it be? What have they done for you in the past that makes you confident that they'll help you? Let's use Flipgrid to answer this question.
My car broke down on the side of the road. I'm pretty sure I would call the police, 911. That's a stranger, I guess, but that's who I would call for help. Not that I can't trust anybody in my family or any of my friends, but I just feel like 911 would be the one I would call for help because they have the right capabilities to help me. They know what to do. They've done this kind of thing before.
Books in the collection. The first one is Love That Dog by Sharon Creech. The next one is Holes by Louis Sachar, and the third one is Walk Two Moons, also by Sharon Creech. Since this is a 6th grade book club, the general reading levels are T through Z, which is a Lexile 855 to 1165. These books help students see that there are many people around them who could help them, just like there are people in your life who help you. In Love That Dog, Jack is helped by his teacher. In Holes, Stanley Yelnats is helped by his devoted friend Zero. And in Walk Two Moons, Salamanca is helped by her grandparents. However, these are not details that we share with our students, but rather help them to see through their discussion questions. A few of those questions are included here. Here are the questions that can be considered from book to book. The first one is, number 1, are the people who help us through the problems in our life usually family members, or are they people outside of our family, like friends and strangers? Number 2, can we help others just by words, or are actions necessary? Number 3, do you believe that we choose the people who will help us in life, or do you think they choose us? The first book that we're going to showcase is Love That Dog by Sharon Creech. This is a 1010 Lexile and the highest book of the bunch. I like the idea of starting with this text. It sets the tone for the other books and sets a standard for some serious critical thinking early on. It is also the book that probably requires the most support for students in terms of how to read it. This book is about a boy who hates poetry, but with the help of his teacher learns to appreciate it as a means to discuss his feelings about his dog that was killed. It's written as a one-sided conversation that the main character, Jack, is having with his poetry teacher. In this book, it is his teacher that truly helps Jack reveal his feelings about his dog and ultimately learn how to heal. If we consider the text complexity chart for this book, it's the layers of meaning domain that may provide the biggest challenge. Again, it's using those inferences for the teacher's half of the conversation that may need the most support from the teacher. All of these factors, interest, background and ability, attitudes and maturity, potential for stimulating thought, discussion, and further reading, and the comments summarizing the assessments on the 3 dimensions, all of these factors help to support the opinion that this book should be read with direct teacher support and is the best choice for the interactive read aloud to start off the book club. A few activities that can be used for this book are listed here. The first one is Print Concepts activity, and that kind of shows how line breaks help to express feelings, how line breaks and stanzas are used in this book. All of those are print concepts that can be explored through using Love That Dog. Phonemic awareness and phonics, a little bit tougher in a higher level book, but still, we can use the rhythm and rhyme of poetry to hear the meaning, and use rhyming words to create a list of words that rhyme to help with spelling. Fluency, students can practice reading poetry with a simple, easy-to-read text. They can read to each other from the text or create their own poetry and face off in a poetry slam. Finally, there's a writing activity. Students can write the other side of the conversation from the teacher's perspective. They can use what Jack is saying and construct a response from the teacher using inferences. Considering the following response from Jack in the book, Love That Dog. What do you think that his teacher said before he wrote this as his response? Let's use a Flipgrid to respond and then listen to the responses of others to see how similar or dissimilar they are to yours. This is what Jack wrote. I tried. Can't do it. Brain's empty. What do you think his teacher said to make him respond in this way?
I think Jack's teacher gave the direction to write something, write poetry down, and Jack saying, I can't, I tried it. She might be saying, try again, try harder, and then he's saying, my brain is empty, I can't think of anything.
At this point in the book club, the students get to choose which book they want to read next. They can read either Holes or Walk Two Moons. Walk Two Moons has a lower Lexile and will be perfect for students who are not quite reading at grade level yet. Holes has a slightly higher Lexile and is perfect for students who are reading at grade level and need a book that they can read independently. The book Holes by Louis Sachar is a novel with multiple storylines, all centered around a boy who was wrongly accused of committing a crime and was sentenced to digging holes at a camp for troubled boys. It turns out that the boys are digging to find treasure, and that is where the flashbacks and other storylines come into play. The boy was acquitted of his crime and ended up finding true friendship while at the camp. Please note that this book has more middle-high categories than any other. Students will likely need more support for this book, but as it has a lower Lexile, the readability is still within the student's capabilities. And the final recommendation for this text is that while students can read it independently, they should still need support from the teacher in order to comprehend everything that they read. A few activities that can go along with this go along with vocabulary and comprehension. The first one is where students are going to determine the meaning of pre-selected words using context clues and then use Quizlet.com on their laptops or whatever technology platform they have in order to create flashcards of the word and the definition. Students can also Google their words and find pictures to supplement the definitions of that they created on the Quizlet program. In terms of comprehension, they can aid their understanding with the material. The students can use different colored note cards to keep track of the action in the 3 different storylines, maybe red for one storyline, blue for another, and so forth. And the students can connect them with a thread and then join the ends together to symbolize how all the 3 storylines are connected. The next book in the book club is Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech. In this story, Salamanca is determined to see her mother again, and her grandparents decide to drive her in their car across multiple states. As they're driving, they're telling their own stories and as flashbacks. The story ends with Salamanca finding the place where her mother died and learning to come to terms with her feelings related to her death. Here we see that this book has lots of flashbacks and symbolism, giving it a few more middle-high ratings, but there's also middle-low when it comes to language and knowledge demands, so it is within the reach of students. Just as with the other books, this book too should be read with a supportive teacher. One of the activities that can be used with this book is a critical thinking activity. Students can be asked to compare and contrast the 2 Sharon Creech books that were read, Love That Dog, which was used as the interactive read aloud, and Walk Two Moons. They may consider characters, theme, and writing style. Students can chart the similarities and differences on a graphic organizer. The final assessment for students would be a Flipgrid, just like the Flipgrids you've been using. Students go on to Google Classroom and use the Flipgrid chart to respond to the essential question. Remember, that was, how do other people help us through adversity? For the end of our presentation, we're going to go to Flipgrid and tell what all the quotations from the featured novels have in common. Here are the 3 quotes that we saw in the presentation. That was so great. That poem that you showed us. That's Jack from Love That Dog. I can fix that, said Sam from Holes. And my grandmother and grandfather drove me is Salamanca from Walk Two Moons.
Hi, so I think all of these comments have the fact that they are all related to how people help us through adversity. The first one says, "That was so great, the poem that you showed us," and that's from Jack, and he was talking to his teacher at the time, so his teacher was helping him through adversity. Sam says, "I can fix that," and he's trying to help the teacher in the story who needs some help with just general things in her life. And the last one is from Walk 2 Moons, and it says, "My grandmother and grandfather drove me," showing that the grandparents were helping her through her difficult times.